And as I say, the Russell Group universities, it is a badge for research. It's a very prestigious consortium of universities in the UK. Now, impressive rankings. Yes, research has an impact on rankings. But in fact, when you're faced with rankings like this, in fact, it doesn't mean anything to anyone. You know, this is not what you need to be looking at. What you need to be looking at is subject-specific data. So very often when you go onto a university website, you know, number 1 for this, number 4 for that, and it's all very impressive. And yeah, sure, it's the sign of a decent university. But you can also find areas of excellence outside the Russell Group. I know that, for example, Aberystwyth University, which most people have not heard of, is number 1 in the UK for international politics, for example. So don't be fazed by the rankings of the university. Go and do some digging in your subject area and find out the rankings or the quality in your subject area. Okay, because that's the important thing. Okay. I talked a little bit about how we measure the quality of a university, and it's not quite the same in Brazil. In the UK, we are under, to put it mildly, extreme pressure to produce quality research. We're also under a lot of pressure to obviously give quality taught, you know, teaching and learning for students, and also things like the student experience. And just lately, the student experience has come under a lot of critique and is, for most universities, is positioned for development now. Okay, so the UK is ambitious. We want top quality research, we want the best student experience, and we want the best teaching and learning. Okay, and we probably have amongst us some of the best infrastructure and facilities in the world. Now, these are the things which universities are assessed on. This is a national assessment which then gets ploughed into sort of various other league tables to come out to give world-class assessment. Okay, so if you just look down, if you see that I don't know, Oxford or Cambridge, you know, number 1 in the UK, what are they, number 10 in the world, something like this. You want to know, well, how did they, who arrived at that decision? How do they know that? And these are some of the subject data that they take into account. So you've got things like teaching, you've got things like research, citations, industry income, and also international mix. And in fact, what we've seen in recent years is the international dimension creeping in and impacting on the league tables. So in fact, it is not sufficient to have good quality research. No. You need good quality research with international dimension. So it comes back to what is research all about anyway. Yeah, okay, you can say, well, what are the problems of the UK? Let's target that. But in fact, some of the problems of the UK are going to be shared problems with Brazil, shared problems with China. So in fact, your research is not really, if it's going to be applied, well, it's going to be applied in perhaps 3 or 4 different locations around the world, and then it must be seen to be developed with other international partners. So in fact, when you're looking for a research university, you would normally be looking to see who are those international research partners, who do those professors work with. Do they have relationships with universities in Brazil? That would be an interesting question. How many of our academics travel to Brazil or are involved with research projects for common solutions? And there are. I can tell you about them later, but internationalization is creeping in. There are no circumstances anymore where a good quality university can remain at a national level, because all the time we are asked to perform and to collaborate and to expand our knowledge into an international dimension. So there is no other measure for this. It has to be internationally recognized, internationally developed, with international partners, and available to the international community who will use it. Okay, so this is getting very, very competitive now. So this is just something from our university strategic plan. We have to recognize our functions, our relationships at the city centre level in Birmingham. Of course, at the national level, you might want to build in European level as well, because the European is actually another dimension, and there's a lot of research, there's a lot of regulation going on in Europe, and then, of course, our role in global society. And I mean, not just the academic global society, but really, we are a university. We're not untouchable, we're not privileged, we're not up there in the sky. We are a real university solving real problems, okay? And that should be accessible to everybody. Okay, I won't talk too much about international strategy. Just suffice to say, as I've already said, that we are always constantly assessed by our international collaboration. Okay. Another thing to do with international concepts, in fact, of an international university. Traditionally, people used to say, well, you know, how many international students have you got? Oh, well, you've got more than us. Well, you're more international than us. It doesn't work like that anymore. It's not about how many international students we have coming into the university. It is much more about mobility in its entirety. And now we are being measured, investigated, for how many UK students we are sending out. And not just sending out into Europe, that's easy because the European Union makes it really easy for us to do. We're talking about sending students out internationally. And I'm not just talking about PhD researchers, I'm talking about undergraduates and taught postgraduates as well. So again, there's a new pressure on us to collaborate with universities here in Brazil, not just for research, not just for mobility of students, but even so for the mobility of academic colleagues. So you can expect to be receiving more and more academic colleagues, certainly from the UK, in your universities, and to receive them back. And we actually are, you know, this is something from our HR department, but we look very closely, you know, what about outgoing colleagues? What about incoming colleagues? So again, the brand of an international university with top quality research has to be about mobility, the mobility of academics and the mobility of the students. And it's not just everybody converging on Birmingham, it's about people getting out of Birmingham and coming out to, you know, work internationally. Okay. This is quite an interesting one, actually, because if you look at the table, you don't have to go into too much detail about it, but this slide just looks at income, the sort of normal sort of balance of income coming into a UK university. And if you look here, it's got other overseas, because, I mean, the other bit comes in because they take out Europe. Europe is over the sea, but we're part of Europe. But if you look at other overseas income, for this university, the University of Birmingham, it's only 2%. Okay. Now, for the University of Birmingham is a very ambitious university. We intend to be in the top 50 world-class universities in the next 5 years. So in fact, what we're going to have to do is we're going to have to up that. We're going to have to attract research funding. And I'm not talking about research funding just coming into Birmingham, but we're going to have to match fund to create bigger pots of research funding. And of course, you may already be aware that we're doing that on a national level and on an international level. On the national level in the UK, we have already formed a strategic alliance with the University of Nottingham. Now, what we have here are two universities, two very good universities, two very productive research universities who share similar areas of expertise, and we are working together in particular areas of research, of course, to attract bigger pots of research income. But the really exciting thing for you guys is that we are doing this again now with Brazil. So what you have is a partnership between Birmingham and Nottingham, already a strong research partnership, teaming up with Brazilian universities. So you can see that the international dimension is there. It makes a lot of sense anyway if you're treating common problems or you're trying to resolve common problems. If you all pitch in shared resource and you attract additional resource from the research councils, then you're onto a winner. It's a win-win situation. But the strength of the research becomes ever greater. The output becomes greater. And this has to be good for everybody.